Hello, everybody that came to our booth. I'm Stefan Hetz. I'm a biologist, and I work for the ZZF. As a scientific consultant for animal husbandry and international relations. And it will become very international today, because we have an international guest for the next 20 to 30 minutes, which I will have some interview, and thanks all the guests to come to our booth. So why are we here? The ZZF has a pet of the year, as you can read behind. And we started with a pet of the year with a bearded dragon that you can see in the terrarium. There will be also a talk in the next few days. So the election process is, we have some suggestions, and in the end, we have some arguments for or against or something. And we have a big panel, and the panel selects the pet of the year. And this year, we have the zebra blacko in 2024. So there are several reasons why we choose the zebra blacko, and we will discuss this. We will discuss about biology, natural habitats, ecology and husbandry of the zebra blacko. The zebra blacko sits right here inside, and afterwards we can also use a camera that is somewhere to show it to you. Or for the people who didn't know what zebra blacko is, it looks like that. This is a little bit bigger and a little bit much more softer than the zebra blacko here inside. Okay, so our first guest is Professor Leandro Sousa. Give him a warm welcome. Hello, Leandro. Hi. So this is your microphone.
Okay.
So,
Right there.
Is it working? It should work. Yeah,
Hello,
okay.
hello.
I know you for about 10 years. So you work in Brazil. Can you explain us a little bit where you work in Brazil and what you do in Brazil?
Hello, everybody. I'm very happy to be here. So thank you
Yeah.
one more time, Dankeschön, to invite me here. I always love to come to Germany to talk about the fish and conservation. And I live in Brazil, in the Amazon, in a city called Altamira, in Pará state. And I live on the margins of the Xingu River.
Mm-hmm. You probably heard of the Xingu. That was the river where the big Belo Monte Dam was built. So there you have a campus of a university. So
Yeah.
what do you do there?
Yeah, I am a professor in a university of Brazil, Universidade Federal do Pará, is the Pará Federal University.
Mm-hmm.
I am a biologist also, work with fishes. And I love fish since I was a child, so the aquarium is very important to me since I was a kid. Mm-hmm. Then that's why I become a biologist. And nowadays I study biodiversity of fish, discover new species, and also work with conservation of some species, endangered species. Mm-hmm. So it's a lot of work.
Mm-hmm. So, as I told you, you live on the Xingu. The Xingu River has about 5 times the average water flow of the Rhine River. You know, the Rhine River is one of the biggest rivers that goes through Germany, and the Xingu is 5 times more. And when I was on the Xingu, I said the Xingu is a very slow-running river, and it has a very high temperature. Can you tell us a little bit more about the Xingu? Is it a flat river? Is it a deep river? Is it fast-flowing? Are there rapids? Are there something?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Xingu is the 4th major river of the Amazon basin. And the Amazon is the biggest basin of the world, so it's a very large river. And the Xingu is a clear water river. So in most parts of the year, the water has some transparency, and the water is warm. It's about 30, 32 degrees Celsius. Mm. And the main...
It's more like a bath tube than a river. Yeah,
yes,
okay.
yes.
Yeah.
You can stay the whole day in the river, and you keep swimming and diving is no problem. Okay. The temperature is very, very warm. Uh-huh. And it's an interesting river because the main basin is rock basin.
Yeah, it's like what we have here in our tank.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's a very good biotope representation.
Yeah, we had pictures from you,
yes,
so we escaped it. So Ari Baumann helped us to build a habitat. Like okay. Yeah.
And so a great portion of the river is a rocky substrate, and it has a gradient, so a slope You have some rapids area and some, but it's very diverse also. In the same place you can have rapids and also backwaters, sandy beaches. So it's several rivers inside one river.
So I figured out when you look at maps of the Amazon and on the tributaries to the Amazon that every time when there is a rapid or something or a big slope, there will be a dam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Engineers
It's not funny, but
see
it's,
a waterfall,
yeah.
they think on
Yeah.
power generation.
Yeah.
Biologists see a rapids, we see a wonderful place with unique species. So the challenge is to balance both visions.
Okay. I think we also have some pictures of your lab. Can you switch? Können Sie bitte mal auf die PowerPoint umschalten? Ah, es funktioniert. Die Regieangabe müssen auf Deutsch sein. Es dauert ein bisschen. So this is a picture I took in your lab. Yeah, this is your home. So, how do you study fish? So there's pictures of a lab, and there's pictures of the surrounding. So, what are you doing with the fish? What fish are you interested in, and what especially do you study in the fish, and why?
Well, I like all fishes. Yeah, so I work with several aspects of fishes. This photo is from the lab that we do some conservation ex situ. So we try to breed a fish on the lab to understand how they breed, or the best way to breed them to do conservation. But I also do field work. So what I like the most is to dive and see the fishes in nature. So today I do kind of half of each. So I go to see the fish on their nature, monitoring the populations, and also in the lab we try to breed them and do educational work. Also, a lot of kids come to the lab to see the tanks, the fish, and that's a lot of.
And you also work with zebra blackos.
Yes.
Let's see whether I got a picture. Oh, this is a picture of a xingu.
So your picture? Yeah.
It's my picture, yeah.
My house is in that hill.
Okay.
Yeah, near
so
that forest.
everyone knows where Leandro lives,
Yeah.
which is okay. So Altamira is also known for pet fish. And can you explain a little bit what the fishermen do there and what kind of fishes they collect there, or what they mainly collect?
Yeah, Altamira is or was for a long time a center of the plecos fever. Let's say it started in the 80s.
Is it still a fever, or
not as it was, but it's there are still families
38
working with
degrees to 39 degrees. Okay.
Yes, yeah. And so we have in the Xingu we have a great diversity of plecos, of lurcarids. So more or less 80 species in that area, and it's a mining, or it's a paradise for people that like plecos, colorful plecos. And there are some families, or in the past and now, that lives or doing catching the fish and selling them to Belém or Manaus or São Paulo, and then get exported to here. I followed the fishermen several decades in the whole Amazon, and I think that the collection of fish in nature is a sustainable activity if made right, of course.
So they are collecting. They look rather big, these guys. So don't they collect bigger ones or smaller ones, or do you have an idea why they collect this?
It depends on the species and because they receive an order from the exporter, for example, and then they go after it. So there is chantelos, the gold nugget pleco, probably the smaller ones. I think they are easier to export than the adults. So that's maybe a reason.
Okay, so let's go back to our biotope that we built over here.
Yeah.
So can you explain a little bit? Can we walk a little bit around?
Yeah.
So what can we see? Kann die Kamera mal bitte direkt auf die Zebraharnischwelse gehen?
Yeah, so here we have a nice, I think it's a rather good representation
Yeah, okay, go on.
Yeah, so I think it's a good representation of the Xingu, or one of the habitat, one of many habitats that you can see on the Xingu, because you have rocks are stacked together, forming spaces or gaps in between them.
And if you look into these spaces, or if you see over here, and there you can also see the blackos just sitting in these places.
Yeah.
Is it the same in nature?
Yes. During the day, they will be or hidden in between the rocks to avoid the predators. The main predators of the plecos are birds that are sight-oriented and cichlids. So cranicycla or pike cichlids.
So we were asked when we put on the tank why we have no driftwood inside and no leaves. Can you explain why? Because you sent us pictures where we didn't see any wood.
Yeah.
But normally the people say, well, it's a black hole, so wood has to be inside.
Yeah.
Is it different in the black holes in the Xingu? Yeah?
It varies because inside the family Loricariidae, that are the pleco family, you have complete the range of behaviors also. So you have wood specialized plecos, you have rock specialized plecos, sand specialized plecos. There are some plecos that live only on sand, for example.
How are they specialized? Are they specialized to take up the food, or are they specialized to use the substrate?
Yes, so the body color is different, the body format is different. The plecos that live in sand, they are usually more slender, flat, and they are the color of the sand, and they bury themselves. The plecos that has a lot of dots and lines, stripes, they are more rock plecos. They live in between the rocks. And in the rocks, usually you have islands of rocks and some sand in between the islands, and the wood usually stays on the margin. The most of the wood are near the margin, and the rocks are sometimes.
So that is like an island
Yes.
with some rocks sitting on sand in the river.
Yeah. So
okay,
not many wood. There are plants.
Okay. So we know what we have learned. Not every pleco needs to have some wood.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go back to the zebra pleco. Why is the zebra pleco so special?
Yeah, because it's beautiful. But the zebra.
But if it's beautiful, everybody wants one.
Yes. That's one problem.
Yeah.
If the fish has a limited range. So the problem with the zebra is that it's very unique and endemic. The endemic means it's only found in one place or in that place, and it's a stretch of a little bit more than 100 kilometers of stretch of the river. That's very narrow for a fish, so it's very specialized.
And what do you think, how big is the population of plecos in nature?
If usual or this species?
This species. Do you have any estimates? Is it hard to measure?
It's hard because you have to dive, and in each crevice you can find or not one species, one zebra, for example. And it's hard to count in a big area because the rocks are not homogeneously distributed. So it's more difficult than counting swimming fish that are on the column of the water. But the population now are not so good. So they are still in the wild.
Is this the reason for it?
One of the reasons are the changes in the...
this is the Belo Monte Dam, which is one of the dams that's built on the Xingu.
Yeah, the only one in the
only one?
In the middle Xingu.
Yeah. And the dam alters a river.
Yes,
so
altered the river. Yeah. But
what happens to the zebra plecos or to plecos in general?
Yeah, some species did better than others with the changes. The zebra pleco did not so bad with the Belo Monte. So in the reservoir you can still find zebra. Because unlike everybody should think, the zebra pleco, they don't need as much current, as much flow.
So the current that we have in our tank
is more than enough.
it's a filter and a pump inside, an impeller inside. So this is okay?
Yeah, that's okay.
So because in the 80s, when the first were imported, they said you have to put 3 or 4 1,000-liter pumps on a tank like this, otherwise the animals will die. So it's not like that.
No.
Okay.
Don't need.
Yeah.
In the wild, so you can dive in some rocks that are just a gently flowing water, and they are there, and they are not found in very strong current in the wild.
Where do they breed? How big are they? How old are they? Do you have some data on that from the wild or from the lab?
Yes.
When do they start to fertilize? We will talk about the breeding tomorrow, but tell us a little bit about the biology, what we know from the zebra blacko.
Yeah, they breed all around the world, all around the year. But mainly, there's a peak of reproduction in the rainy season when there's water coming, new water coming, more food, and I think there is some data on the articles that they breed in 2.5 years old. But in my lab, we are doing some new research with sperms to see the gonads, and we found that with 1 year, some of the specimens are already mature.
So the males are already mature.
Yes.
What about the females? When do they get mature?
We are still checking that, but I think it's more or less at the same time.
Okay, let's say it takes 2 or 3 years until they get ripe or ready to breed. Then how long do they breed?
I think they breed for decades.
For decades?
Yeah,
really?
I think so. The longevity of blackos usually are underestimated. So they can live 20 years, I think, or more.
Wow,
I heard that somebody will, in the next interview, somebody will
In the next interview, we can go to that.
Just a spoiler here.
Yeah. So
can we talk about a little bit of the impact?
Yeah.
So Belo Monte hydroelectric dam did change the habitat, but the populations of the zebra, they didn't get extinct. So they can cope with the new regime of the flow. But there is a lot of illegal catching of the zebra. And I think that's the most dangerous or the most impact on the populations are the collection of the fish.
But you told me that they are hard to find because they sit in there. And it's also hard for illegal catching, or is it easy for illegal catching, or what's the difference?
It's hard for me.
Yeah, okay.
for people that goes with that are not used to it, but the fishermen they born and raised on the river, so they know a lot of the fish biology and where to find the fish, and they if you ask, they will find the fish. So there is an interesting fact. 3 years ago, there were a huge operation of Brazilian police, federal police, and IBAMA, and also with Interpol, Colombian authorities, and they arrested a lot of people that are involved or were involved in the illegal smuggling of the zebra. For some time, the fishermen told me that they were totally out, so they stopped collecting the zebras. And I was following the populations of the zebra before that, and it was hard to see. In 2 years, that after people stopped collecting the fish, the populations increased tremendously. And I was very happy. I made some videos on YouTube. Yeah, the zebras are good. But then last year, I noticed a drop in the population again. And I said, wow, what's happened? It was the El Nino or something like this. Then I saw in Facebook that people are again buying and selling wild caught fish. So the smuggling returned, and you can see right away that the population went down. So
but as I learned, the zebra blacko, and we will talk about this tomorrow a little bit more in detail. If the zebra blacko is a catfish that has only a few number of eggs, and the eggs are big, as I know, but only a few numbers, and they don't lay eggs every week like a caracan, but maybe they need some more weeks to ripen eggs again. So how does this population develop so fast?
That's a good
Nobody
question.
knows.
Yeah, I don't know, but they are resilient in the wild, and I think as the population are so depleted, not because of the environment, but because of the pressure of the collection, if you stop the collection, the babies and the juveniles has a lot more space to grow. I don't know. I think there is a vacancy of habitat.
So are there changes between in the river flow between the is there a breeding season? Is there a dry season? Is there a high water season like we know from the Amazon in the Xingu?
Yes.
It's also, yeah?
Yes.
When do they breed mostly?
They breed mostly on the rainy season that starts on February. So now we are at the end of the high season, so now it's starting to get low.
Okay. So the illegal capture of zebra blackfeathers is still a bad issue.
Yes. Yes.
And but it's illegal to export. There is a zero quota for the zebra blackfeather, so it's illegal to export them. But they can be raised in the tank quite easy, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the question is, how are they transported to other countries? Because in Brazil there is so they control it very very tightly. So it must go through other countries. Is it like
usually they go by plane, a small plane, to the borders of the Brazil with Colombia and Peru in Leticia, and from there, when they are in Colombia, I think they are spread over the world. So there is smuggling by not official means.
Yeah, it's always the tricky thing with the illegal trade. You don't have numbers.
Yeah.
Therefore, okay. So thank you. So this is the end of the interview, but we still have a questioning session. If someone has a question, just raise your hand, and we give you the microphone, or we can meet there afterwards if you don't want to speak publicly, so you can speak directly to us. And thank you for coming, and thank you for listening to us, and thank you for watching us, and thank you for taking some videos and some pictures, and hopefully we see you tomorrow.
Yep.
And thank you, Leandro, for coming here and for answering lots of questions here.
Okay, my pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Questions?
Questions? Yeah, here's a question.
What are the differences before and after building the dam with raising, falling water high? How much is it?
Yeah, so before the dam, so the Xingu River had a natural flow. So there was much more water in the rainy season, and the fish could predict it because it's adapted to live in the flowing, in the dynamic pools. Now, the dam storage a little bit of this water and deviate to another dam that's not on the natural course of the river. So,
da muss ich das hier jetzt ausschalten, oder?
And so now you have changed a little bit the flood pulse.
Nee, draußen ist es nicht.
So you have a portion of the river that is dammed, so did not empty anymore, and you have another portion of the river that has less water because the water was deviated to the powerhouse. And there's a lot of problems with that. The company tried to mimic at least a little bit of the pulse, but it's much lesser than it was before. By law, they can deviate, or they can use 80% of the water. So the 20% remaining is released in the natural course of the river. Yeah.
And does it influence the population, or how much does it influence?
Yeah, good question. It depends on each species. So some species suffer more than others. The zebra pleco, or the plecos, usually they are territorialists. So if their rock or their island has the water, has more, or has the food there, they can still breed. Not as much as before, but they can still breed. We will talk about the food tomorrow. What do they eat
tomorrow?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So be here tomorrow, huh?
I know in your lab there where you're raising the different fish, you raise a fair amount of the zebra pleco. Since you're not able to export them, what happens to the fish you are raising in the aquariums? I know you can't put them back in nature either, so what happens to those fish? And I assume you get overrun if you start to raise a lot of them.
Yes, we have a lot of F1 or first generation already. For now, we are doing experiments and studies on husbandry and how fast they grow, how fast they mature. And my intention is to have this fish and donate to companies, to Brazilian companies, to start doing commercial breeding. Because one thing that's a problem for us is because in Brazil you cannot breed commercially these species. The hobbyists cannot have these species, and I think it's a huge problem. If you allow companies to produce this fish, they will produce so many that you don't have reason to catch them in the wild. So I advocate that in the government as much as I can, that if the best way to fight smuggling or the collecting the wild is to let companies to commercially breed them. So that's one of our intentions, to have enough specimens that we can donate to a lot of companies when the government allows it.
Yeah. There's another question here. Oh, okay, here and then here. Yeah.
Have you noticed any genetic adaptations from when the dam was put in to before in your lab?
Of the zebra? Yeah, not yet. So
she asked whether there were some. It was a bit. It was too quiet. So she asked whether there were some genetic adaptations or adaptations that you can see when you take them, or the flow regime changes, or when you take them in your lab.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not yet, because these genetic adaptations take some time, and we still have fishes that they were born before the dam in the wild, because they can live 20 years, for example, and the dam started in 2016. But you had changes in population. So you can see some differences on distribution mainly.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Leandro. So what do you think about the genetic pool of the captive bred zebras? Especially, I mean, there is a big production coming from certain places, and probably those were coming from the specimens that were collected long ago. So how diverse do you think is that genetic pool? Some people were saying that with the later generations, you're starting to see wavy lines in the. Is that natural, or do you think it's a product of captive breeding?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, those lines or those varieties, they are artificial selection.
Okay, good.
That's
Okay.
usual in commercial, in when you farm an animal or a plant. They are not common in the wild, and I'm not specialized in farming or in aquaculture. Yeah, but I think that's always an issue to be aware of, and ideally, from time to time, to have specimens from the wild to put in your breeding stock would be the best if you want to maintain the genetic pool. Yeah, but that's a difficult. Yeah.
Okay, are there some more questions? If not, then thank you again also for the people who ask questions, and thanks again for answering the questions.
Is this mine?
This is no, no. This is not mine, but we have one for you over here. So this is yours.
Okay.
Okay.
Dankeschön.
Thank you, Leandro. Thanks again for everyone.